Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ValhallaWay podcast with myself, founder of ValhallaWay, Hanan, and my esteemed guest and possibly co-host for the future, Tom Render. The purpose of this podcast. Hello. Sorry, I just spoke over you then. Do you want me to do that again? It's too late.
No.
You're a co-host. All right. Hold your position. You're co-host. Don't talk over me. That's how it's going to be really in this podcast. He is going to interrupt all the time, and it's going to really annoy me. No, the purpose of this podcast is to help elevate the grassroots rugby game, is to take some of that knowledge that Tom and I built over time, and hopefully over time we'll get more guests in that have played the game at a good standard and try and provide tips, training tips, nutrition tips, skills, psychology of the game to all you aspiring rugby players, and that could help elevate your Saturday game. It could help take you to the next level, whatever your aspirations are. Hopefully we can help you reach those with the advice that we're going to put out, and that's the purpose of it. Today, episode 1, we're going to talk about the single best exercise for rugby. It's unlikely there's going to be one. We might just split that up or lower. And no, bench press did not make the list.
Selling HD quality DVDs in the 90s.
I can't get this. No, I won't let me max on screen. Oh, this is becoming far more stressful than it needs to be.
Yeah. It's funny because I used to literally every day.
Tested this earlier.
All day. Without any problems.
Yeah.
Last week, I probably had something like 17 different Zoom calls with 17 different people in about 9 different countries. All of them went without a hitch, including people in like the middle of bloody nowhere. Some like backward hellhole in South Africa and India, and it was all fine.
And everything's fine.
Yeah, but you've got supersonic broadband in the UK, and suddenly there's a problem.
Suddenly nothing connects, and I've got a boosting device that I bought off Amazon that cost me 70 quid that's supposed to, I don't know, the guy at the end of the road can connect to it, but I can't connect. We're about 15 miles from Victoria, and I'm pretty sure I can still get a connection, but in my garage, no.
Definitely not.
So, but I came here earlier before I connected. Before you connected and joined the meeting, I tested all this out earlier, waiting for our meeting.
Yeah.
Waiting for you to join. I was like, oh, let me just test it out and make sure like there's not going to be any issues with the lighting or anything like that. So let's just do a test run, a test record.
Yeah.
It was fine. It was absolutely fine. Suddenly someone from France connects.
Well,
and it all goes to pot.
I tested my speeds. My download speed is 208 megabytes, and my upload speed, which is the important one, is 433.
Why is your upload speed higher than your download speed?
I don't know, the package that we've got with Orange. Well, I specifically was looking for one with a good upload speed because I do a lot of like conference calls and things, and that's far more important. And Orange were by far the best, and they were like, "Yep, we'll deliver you at least 400 meg upload speed." And I was like, "Okay." I'm supposed to have 1 gig download and then 500 meg upload is the package. Of course, it's never ever going to be delivered like that. I normally get the download varies wildly between 200 and about 600, but the upload speed's fairly consistent at around 400 to 450.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's always stable.
And that's from Orange.
Yeah, apparently Orange in France actually do a decent job because I wouldn't ever go with them in the UK. In fact, they
don't exist in the UK anymore.
Yeah. They became EE because their brand just got so sabotaged with like death complaints.
Yeah. Was it that bad? I don't think I was ever with them.
Ben had at university, he had a mobile phone with Orange, and I would say at least 50% of the day he didn't have any signal whatsoever. Like,
really?
Yeah, it'd be dead. It was awful. It was like,
I mean, you were in Chichester, but you know.
Yeah, but still, actually, we're in Bognor Regis.
I see.
But still, like, he just never had any signal. It was just endless problems, and
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody else had Orange. I think there were guys across the road. I think they had Orange for their internet, and that was fucking ridiculously shit. But Orange here are really good. So package is good. Yeah, the internet
Yeah.
speed
Okay.
is ridiculous.
Fair play. Yeah. Well, they're now EE here in the UK, so
Yeah.
and apparently doing all right. So
Yeah,
I think they are anyway. They merged with T-Mobile to create EE.
yeah.
Anyway, sounds like it's working. And before it dies, let's quickly at hyper speed have a quick chat about rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're running a little bit late. I was watching the so at the moment there's the Premiership Rugby Prem semi-finals.
Yeah.
You got Wasps playing Bristol.
Yeah.
Quite an entertaining match. Obviously, it hasn't started too well for Bristol. I'm not going to throw out any spoilers, but Wasps back row, the player to look out for is Jack Willis. He's been insane all season. England, the one position England probably don't need is jacklers anymore. Like 6 and 7 is pretty packed with the Curry brothers. You got what's his name? Bath player. Absolute unit. Oh god. You can help me out here if you want to.
No, I'm gonna let you struggle.
It starts with. I'm pretty sure it starts with. I can picture him. I just can't. I think Underhill. That's it. Yeah, he's
Sam
my.
Underhill.
Yeah,
He's only slightly good.
He's only slightly good. Yeah, not a bad player, that guy.
Yeah.
You got him. Then you've got our other three brother as well. He's doing pretty well for Sale. And then you've got Wilson. And also in the back row, we've got potentially Sam Simmons. You've got Billy. So we've got plenty of players. I've probably missed another few really, really good players. But yeah, Jack Willis is he's ridiculous. I think he's had like 40 or 50 turnovers this season, and the next highest is like 19.
Yeah.
So a little bit above the pack.
Yeah, a little bit leading the way there.
Yeah, and he scored 13 or 14 tries this season. So Eddie Jones is at the match, so chances are he might be selected.
Yeah, why not? I mean, you can never really have too much depth in the squad, can you? So
that's true.
It is a bit unfortunate when you've got like 9 players for 2 positions, and then you've got like 1 player for
every other position.
It's a bit of an imbalance, isn't it? They could do with having a bunch more 9s. Somebody lined up to take over from Youngs would be nice.
Yeah, they have got a couple. It was a former Sarries, is now in Bath.
Hines, Watson, Hines, whatever his name is.
So you got Willie Hines, but I don't think, is he English? Yeah. I thought Willie Hines was from New Zealand. But it might qualify for England. I think he might have played for England. We got Dan Robson, Wasps, again.
Hines played for England a couple of times already.
Okay, yeah, of course he has.
Nations or the World Cup. I don't know. I mean, he's fine, but I wasn't very impressed. And
no,
like I don't want to just write somebody off after like 2-3 games, especially when it's like the first time you're playing at that level. And I want to say his first few games were like the World Cup or important games, so fine. But from what I saw, I was just like, why would you ever play this guy over Youngs? Like every ball that he played was a couple of seconds off the pace. And when you're playing New Zealand, that means you lose.
Yeah.
When you're playing in a World Cup final, it means you lose. Like 2 seconds is the difference between medals and not. Right.
Oh, comfortably, yeah.
So I just think the amount of times that he got to the breakdown and you're like, the ball's there and it should have gone, but it was just this like, oh, okay, now it's gone.
Yeah.
But that just reorganizes the defense, and especially when you do it through like 7 or 8 phases, you can like if you've had a breakthrough and then you spend 3 phases having a 2-second pause of each one, the whole of the defense has realigned themselves.
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
So it's over. Like you've just lost all of your advantage just because the guy can get the ball away. And it's not like it wasn't presented to him. Like Ford's doing a good job securing the ball.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm having another memory blank, but I think he should be the shoe-in for England's position. His box kicking is insane. Because the Sarries obviously going down this season, they've loaned out a lot of players, or a lot of players have left the club.
Yeah.
He's currently at Bath, and Bath are in the semi-finals, and I think he has a. Not that he's
the Premiership final, isn't it? If they get there,
I think so. Bath.
No, Bristol. Sorry, would be there first. Bath would be looking at.
Bristol will be, yeah, Bristol. Yeah, but I think but Bath must have won it before. I don't know, like the history of the Prem is something I'm not very good with. But yeah, he's had a what was the last game they played? Jesus Christ. I really should just go back to bed. Can't remember anything at the moment.
Yep.
I do have a 2-year-old, so I have an excuse.
Oh yeah.
So he kind of sleeps through the night. He does sleep through the night, so I'll have a 2-year-old, but he's pretty good at sleeping.
He sleeps all night and you're out all day at work. So
Yeah.
he's not really your excuse, is he?
No, it's not. It's not. And now he goes to nursery because they've opened up again.
Oh right. Oh yeah, wonderful.
So
he's not Ikra's excuse either.
No, not at all. Yeah, no, plenty of memory blanks, but they had a fantastic game. Threw it away a little bit towards the end. Otherwise, they might have secured like a home semi-final, but unfortunately they didn't. So they're now playing Exeter, who have put out a full strength side, and they're going to be tough to beat. But it'll be a good match. It'll be a good match. Definitely one to watch.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, put it on, or if not, catch up on the highlights.
I always have to catch up on the highlights. They don't like to stream it here unless you pay an extortionate amount.
Oh, there you go. You get good internet, but you can't watch what you want to watch.
No, it's really irritating.
That's pretty bad. So, how's things with you in terms of COVID? Because that's really the kind of the purpose of this video, is about potentially new lockdowns, rules, and more restrictions coming in, and what can players do. At the moment, only Premiership Rugby has been allowed to return. So we haven't had, the Championship hasn't allowed to come back, and anything obviously below that. So there's no grassroots rugby at the moment allowed to be played. Whether the teams are doing it themselves, A's versus the B's, first versus seconds. I don't know. I don't even know if they're allowed to do that, but if they are, that's all they're getting done. So it's extended off season. So I guess the question is, I know my answer, but I'd want to see what you want first. Is with the season potentially not coming back and more restrictions, rugby isn't going to come back before Christmas. So there's still at least a good few months to build up some strength, do some of that off-season training. So if the gyms don't shut, what in your view is probably the single best exercise? We're not going to have time to kind of come up with a complete plan. Obviously, it all changes for different players. But what's that kind of single exercise that you go, if you're going to want to train, this is the one you definitely want to be bringing up or prioritizing? And what's that in your opinion? I know my answer.
What, if you're training at home?
Not at home. Not at home. What is it in the gym? Because the gyms at the moment aren't being talked about. They're open, they're secure. The pubs and restaurants and clubs are potentially going to shut down further or have even tighter restrictions. Gym's not at the moment. But we'll come on to what you can do at home in case they turn around and shut down gyms as well. Or if you don't have access to a gym, what can you do at home?
Yeah. Okay. I think if you're in a gym, you just want to get under the bar and squat a shed ton. Like, put as much as possible on your squat, whether it be a back or a front squat. I'd prefer a front squat for a rugby player, but I think as long as you're under the bar and squatting regularly, and then something for your upper body, which for rugby I wouldn't be bench pressing. I'd be doing like overhead or steep incline, ideally.
Okay. Let's start with the first one. You said either or on the squat. Why?
It just depends where you are. Different players. Like if you're Joe Marlow, you've got no neck and you can't get your arm right back past yourself. You might just want to get on like a back squat with a really wide arm is fine, or maybe you can't even get in the front rack position. Or there's so many rugby players have injury around their shoulders. Sure. So I think you rather than saying, "Oh, I must do back squats because that one's better." I think you take whatever you want. If you're going to cross your arms, you're going to front rack, or you're going to go behind, you can go high bar or low bar. I would first prioritize being comfortable and being able to do it. Yeah. Because there's not, for me, a massively significant difference between a front squat and a back squat to put yourself at risk of injury, or with mobility and stuff. You'd be better just being in the correct position. But if you can get into a front squat position, I like that. On the basis it hits your quads. Look, the position that you would be in a front squat is really similar to how you're going to attack a ruck, a scrum, anything like that. Like you're going to be more narrow stanced and going in like that. Whereas in a back squat, you're going to be leant forward, like you're going to be like that and going down. Whereas in a front squat, you're like this. When you hit a ruck, if you look at yourself you're like that, and the same in a scrum.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
and you're much more quad dominant in a front squat, and you are again in a ruck or a scrum. So I prefer that for that reason. And then you can always whack in other sort of posterior chain stuff to bring that stuff.
Well, no, absolutely. But it's kind of going back to the what is the single one exercise that if you looked at someone going to the gym at the moment, because I suppose a lot of people will probably just train the way people at the gym train, and a lot of people at the gym train more bodybuilding style. Now, if you don't have the guidance of a coach, a strength coach who can come up with a good plan, you're probably just going to go to the gym, and you're going to have one leg day maybe, but you're going to have that classical kind of split that you'll see other people doing. If you don't know any better, you're just going to do what you see. And a lot of people will probably have, chest on Mondays, back biceps on Tuesday. There may be legs on Wednesday, which again is just a terrible. You should probably never have back and legs on the same day. Day after, you should have definitely probably a bigger split, and then maybe shoulders and then arms the following day, and then abs is chucked in somewhere. Now, if you're doing that for rugby, you're in the gym, you're getting stronger. It's going to help, but there is a kind of like you can get better returns for your time in the gym. So what's one exercise? So for you, I guess you're saying for the lower half. And would you say, okay, fine. Yeah. Front or back? And if you could, probably front.
Yeah, I think so. If you've got the mobility around your shoulder and it doesn't cause you any problems, and you can maintain a good position, it also obviously kills your abs a lot more. Like get that core engagement, which is pivotal, trying to hold your body position in any kind of contact position.
Yeah.
Like you have to brace way harder in a front squat than a back squat in terms of your abs, like the front of your core.
Sure.
When you're in a back squat, you're bracing harder with your lats, like you're pulling your lats in and pulling the bar around your back, which is great if you're a power lifter to be able to put yourself into that position. But when you're taking contact at the front of you, you're not pulling your lats in to brace.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that, I just think it carries over a bit nicer, but because some people just really hate front squatting, especially like I've got no neck at all. So the bar's like really in my Adam's apple and it's like choking me to death. But so it's okay, but some people just hate it.
No, that's true. I remember reading an article somewhere that they were saying, if you can't do that crossover grip that you see a lot of people do, well, if you haven't got the flexibility to do it like an Olympic, like the Olympic lifters will hold, then you can kind of go cross. I don't like this because I find that this is it's too unstable.
Yeah, especially when something heavy on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're doing, 12, 15 reps and you've got, say, 100 kilos on there, that's probably not too bad. Anything above that, reaching 2 times body weight, then you're going to probably struggle to balance that. And you don't want your spine going this way with heavy load. I really liked using wrist straps.
Good shout.
Wraps. Putting those on the bar and then catching them. And then that allows you to get, because then you don't have to turn your wrist the other way around. You can keep your wrist in a more neutral position, and that allows you to. I thought that was a really good tip. But ultimately, if you can work on your flexibility and try and get in that range.
Yeah, people always go crazy for the safety squat bar, and then everybody gets upset. Oh, I don't have safety squat bar. It's really annoying. Get some wrist wraps and wrap them around the bar. There we go, safety squat bar.
That's it. Yeah, you're good to go. And wrist wraps cost what? I don't know, tenner.
Yeah,
20 quid for a good pair.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
You got a makeshift instant safety squat bar wherever you go. I thought that was a really good tip. Yeah, and then on the upper body, you're saying not bench press, something incline.
Yeah, I quite like something. If you could, I would do something like a neutral grip, relatively steep incline to press.
Okay.
Just again, especially if you're a forward, or do it overhead, because if you're lifting in the line out, your pecs are doing nothing in that anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't really matter. And again, like when you take contact, you don't take contact stood straight up and pushing forward. Like your bench press, you're down that way and going up. Yeah. So you're way more shoulder and tricep dominant in almost every activity that you would need a serious amount of strength in than you are pec dominant. So I think you might as well just train that way. Like I don't like all these like sport specific ridiculous exercises where you're like just making yourself unstable for no reason and not moving any weight. Like I think that's ridiculous. But if you can mimic the motion pattern and the movement planes, then I think you should do that.
Yeah, but
so
sticking to the core exercise.
Yeah.
Well, that okay.
Yeah. So you could alternate, like, because I would have somebody doing probably full body a couple of times. It depends. I think if most people who's watching this are not professional athletes, so they're going to have somewhere between 2 and 5 training sessions a week, with 1 or 2 or 3 of them being rugby training sessions, not in the gym.
Yeah.
If you're going to maximize your gym sessions, which might be maybe 2 or 3, I think you'd be doing full body on each one of them. So you might want
That's a good point.
alternate between an overhead press and a more horizontal, or an incline-ish press.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to, just to change it up a bit. But I would do that. I would do, steep incline presses.
Fair. Okay, that's interesting.
And neutral grip if you can, because that'll save your shoulders and load your triceps harder.
Yeah, we'll do that. It will allow a safer range of motion. Unless you can, then obviously go wider if you want to. But it's not a huge difference on shoulder stress between the different grips.
Yeah, you just find lots of people when they've got, like, especially if they're on a bar and they're that way double overhand, you'll get into some positions and people are like doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's because they're not comfortable and they don't want to move the plane. Whereas when they're that way, you'd see that very less. Like, even if people get stuck, they just tend to fail. They don't like wiggle when they're in a neutral grip. They just push through.
Yeah.
And you also tend to not go double overhand. When you like your hand off, you would be like straight, but I don't know. I just like that grip for athletic performance.
Yeah. Okay.
It's why you have all the NFL guys all have those football bars, right? They've all got the power.
Of course they do. Yeah.
It's because when you're going to go and grab someone, you're going to probably be like that. You might be that way, but you're more likely to be there than you are, which is closer to this.
I mean, if you're grabbing someone, you will grab them like this.
Yeah.
Palms facing inwards, which is what the neutral grip will be. Yeah. No, you're right. Because you wouldn't necessarily want to grab someone like both hands or palm facing up, because the only way that would be effective is if you're trying to come up to the shoulder, and we know that, well, from behind that's okay, but if you go anything across towards the neck, it's high tackle. Yeah. So you probably fine.
So you need a mate to poke the ref in the eyes while you're doing that one.
That's it. Yeah. Just get a big fat forward to stand in front of him.
Yeah. Sorry, sir.
I block your vision. Sorry.
Yeah.
So now I would say, for me, and my recommendation comes more from personal experience than it does. I mean, it kind of takes into account the scientific performance as well and the scientific evidence, but I would say a single leg exercise more. So rather than doing squats where you're a bilateral, more of a unilateral exercise, so something like a lunge. If you want to do rear foot elevated like a Bulgarian split squat, that's fine, or a Bulgarian lunge. Go ahead. But some form of kind of one foot forward, 1 foot back. And if you want to save your knees and you find lunging hurts, then step backwards, don't step forwards. And like you said, if you can keep an upright torso, that helps. Again, keep that squat engaged. Now, the hardest version of it will be a rear foot elevated front squat, but that will take a long time to learn. So just any standard lunge. And I found that, at least for me, carried over to rugby the best. That's when I've probably found I was my strongest and also my fastest on the pitch, was when I was incorporating those more, as opposed to building up my squat. Now, obviously, building up the squat did help. But more often than not.
As well.
Yeah, but again, more often than not, you are 1 foot forward than the other. Even in the scrum, that first point, once you engage, you're in kind of that motion. But as soon as you move a little bit, you're now off 1 foot because you're stepping to try and continue that drive forward. You don't just extend from your hips the entire time. You have to follow the hit, and then obviously running. That would be.
I like that. Like, why not? I think that's a perfectly good thing to do. Again, if we're going back to, probably you're only going to train twice, maybe 3 times in a week in the gym, you can have one big heavy squat session with, your feet flat and some weight on the bar, because when you're doing a split squat, your spine's going to be you're going to deload your spine because the weight's just going to be so much less on the basis that you're on 1 foot.
Yeah.
So you could do that as your second session, or the other way around. Depending on when you got training as well. If it's like, oh, I've got training tomorrow, well, great, do split squat stuff then.
Yeah.
It'll be less stress on your torso and your spine.
Yeah.
And when you've got, I'm going to train today, but tomorrow I've got a day off, or I've got 2 days off, then you can do a heavier barbell session.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, incorporate them both.
You could do one day is like your like heavy day, where you're doing, you could do a barbell overhead press or incline bench press and a barbell squat. And then your second session is like a split squat and dumbbells for the upper body, something like that. So you're managing your load and how much load you're putting through your joints, but you're still getting the work in, and it's effective work and still effective exercises. But rather than you've got two massive like squat things, although
for sure. Yeah. I think if I was doing that, just on that advice, I'd probably swap. So if I was doing a barbell back squat, I wouldn't do a barbell press. I would probably then do a dumbbell press. Yeah, just because I won't want two of my heaviest lifts on the same day. Yeah. They're gonna kind of, whichever one I do first is going to affect the other. Whereas I know I'm going to definitely barbell press more than I'm going to dumbbell press, and that because that's a lighter exercise.
Funny. I would do it the opposite way around, because in my head I'd be amped up for a heavy day, and then in the mindset of a more like sport specific day, or perhaps I'm going to do speed work after that. I would do in the split squats, and after that I'm going to do sprints. Like slightly different mindset.
Yeah, fair.
Going from one like heavy exercise to another. I suppose that's where we do powerlifting, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm going to squat, bench, and deadlift in a meet.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for me not to practice that. Like doing it heavy, but if you're an athlete playing rugby, that's potentially different, like because you're not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think personal preference is, fine.
It's fair. Yeah, then that's what I said. That's what I said. For me personally, I probably would like it that way, because I will mentally have myself engaged, ready to go as hard as I can on the squats. But by that time, once I'm done with that exercise, I'm mentally now in a fatigue situation. I don't think I could psych myself up again to then go as maximum effort on the barbell. I would then want something just to like, okay, well, this is your only maximum effort work exercise today, so give it your absolute all. After that, you're going to go towards more like the 8, 10, 12 rep range for your shoulders and get some shoulder health. So kind of doing strength and then shoulder health, and then the other day doing strength for the shoulders, and then like leg health and lower body health.
We should also mention to anybody who's listening, who's perhaps writing this down and thinking about how they're going to do this, whenever you do a pushing motion, just put some pull-ups in there afterwards. Like you need to do something for your back.
Yeah. I think the advice is like for every set or rep, consider it. For every time you press, you have to pull twice, just to make sure you don't create that imbalance. Now, it's interesting you picked the barbell press and the shoulder press, because I had either the pull-up as the king, because even in the pull-up, you are developing your tricep. Like it is a back dominant exercise, but you're building your biceps, you're building your back, your core as well. But it's the spine. It's got the added benefit that you are deloading the spine. So whereas in the squats, you're kind of compressing the spine, here you get a chance to deload it. So I think it's more from an injury prevention point of view that I would have either thought pull-ups, and you can always add loads of weight and get really, really strong. And anyone that is strong on pull-ups will have big, strong arms, big, strong shoulders, a very good, kind of a very tight core. So that, or I was thinking maybe like the push press.
Push press? What, for your back?
No, not for your back. Either that exercise for your upper body, or doing the push press.
Oh, I see. I'd always want to throw in.
I could decide.
They're like push and pull, aren't they? So it's just got to be the balance. But push press. When you've got something overhead, again, if it being heavy enough, like to balance it, you are going to use some traps in there and some like stability on your back. The same, you see this with powerlifters. Like when somebody looks a powerlifter and they say, well, okay, what's missing from their bench press? It's either going to be triceps or lats. Very rarely does anybody say it's their pecs. Because if you don't have a big enough back to balance that weight on, you're just not going to press it ever.
You're not going to press it ever. Yeah.
So you could argue just, the king of exercise for your upper body is going to be is going to be something like a pull-up more than anything else. But Though actually, this is worth noting. Something I've been thinking about more recently about balancing back exercises is, rather than thinking about all these different exercises, thinking about where your elbow is, and thinking about whether your elbow is close to you or is wide from you. Because if you're going to do double overhand wide grip pull-ups, the muscles that you're using in that versus when it's overhand and your elbow is close to you change really dramatically.
Yeah,
and the same for a bar. If you're going to do a bent over row and you go double overhand wide and you pull it into sort of your chest nipple area, it's a wildly different set of muscles than if you come, even with a double overhand, but if you come in close and hit the bottom of your stomach, your stomach area, you're going to use totally different muscles. So I always quite like the idea of thinking about, well, if I'm going to do 2 back exercises, one's going to have a wide elbow and one's going to have a narrow elbow.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
Rather than, because you always see people they go double overhand wide grip lat pull down machine like that, and then they go into a bent over barbell row and they bring it up into their chest.
Their chest is the same kind of.
You've done 2 exercises to hit the same muscle group, and it was not that it's a waste of time, but
no, you're right.
You missed a whole area.
Yeah, and I think not so. I mean, yes, the elbow position is a key one, or is a good clue. I would say also, where is that bar hitting your chest? Like you said, like if it's hitting here, chances are you are going wide grip. I don't think you can narrow grip chest like that. Would just, but again, that's going to hit your traps. It's going to hit your rhomboids. Your rear delt. It's going to hit there, as opposed to hitting the lat and your mid and lower back. Whereas, like you said, pulling towards
your stomach.
Your grip. And even with the pull-ups, like you said, like go wide. And then once you fatigue on wide, then come in closer, go more neutral grip, then go supinated and, palms facing you, and do an entire pull-up session that way. Lots of people will just do one grip, do 2 or 3 sets, fatigue, end it. So you could probably get another couple of sets out if you just change your grip slightly.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
Right. It also changes the strength curve.
Yeah.
Which enables you to progress quicker and more often because you're producing more stimulus. Although
Absolutely.
Branch Warren and Dorian Yates would argue otherwise, because they've done the same workout every day of the week for like 20 years, and it worked out fairly well for them.
They did it for bodybuilding.
But,
for sure. But does that transpire to rugby? I guess, I mean, to some extent it will do. You are getting stronger, you are building a bit more muscle. It's going to help with rugby, but again, we're talking about
athletic.
I mean, like I said, just being in the gym and training with weights is going to make you a better rugby player from a strength perspective. I was not going to improve your skills, but it'll make you stronger for rugby. It's just where would your money be spent? Cool. So that's in a gym scenario. Now, obviously, not everyone has gym. Not everyone has a setup like I have back here. This was my only requirement in the house we get. I didn't care if it was detached terrace or whatever, whether in 1, 2 or 3 bedrooms, didn't care. I'd happily, all family sleeping in one room, as long as I got a good garage. Like, it didn't bother me. I'd sleep on the couch.
In the garage. Let's just buy a garage.
Much cheaper as well.
So if you're at home, there's a bunch of different, I've got quite a lot of theories, and I think you have to be of the mindset that you're going to make it work and utilize what you can, instead of I don't have this equipment and therefore I can't do type of thing. And so it can become quite difficult, because I think people go, well, all I've got is body weight, and you don't necessarily. Like, there are lots of things that you can do that, like, we should go outside actually and get all of my stones out.
No, send me the video, and I'll put it up on the screen. Bringing it, because I thought that was an excellent way of kind of adapting to the environment that we were all in, and this was at the heart of the lockdown.
You'd be surprised, especially if you pick up something like, you think, I'm going to have to do a back squat, I'm going to need 100 kilos in a bar. So when you come home, you're like, well, I've got 100 kilos lying around in a squat and a rack and whatever else. But you try picking up something really awkward and squatting with it in a Zercher squat position. Like, you don't need 100 kilos anymore.
You absolutely don't. Well, it goes to my argument. My suggestion is that split stance squat. You might have a really good back squat and be squatting, I don't know, 3 plates, 4 plates, but you're not going to be back squatting 3, 4 unless you're an elite level athlete when you're lunging. So you might actually, your body weight might be enough, or elevating your heel, or one heavy thing that you might need. If you've got a pet in the house, just annoy them, pick them up, and Just
Get
pardon
a
that.
suitcase and fill it full of books
There you go.
or
Yeah.
wet clothes.
Oh, that's messy.
Well, like if they just come out of the washing machine, like put them all into a suitcase,
Yeah, it's not going to work very well.
then they're heavier. You have to put them back in the washing machine to make sure they don't stink. But if you get a couple of big suitcases, though, you can fill them right out and pack them. You'll get them to about 30 kilos each, and suddenly you've got to try and basically bear hug 60 kilos and do an Atlas stone lift, and then try and do a split squat with that. Like that's going to be difficult. Like there's not going to be many people watching this who could do that.
Absolutely.
Or put it up on one shoulder. Like you say, like do a split squat that way.
Also having it on one shoulder engages the core. It kind of creates that imbalance. You know, in rugby, you're not always perfectly balanced. You're moving in a three-dimensional space. So
and if you're if you're a pretty big person in the first place, you play in the forwards, you could just do piston squats for the most part. Like they're difficult, especially if you weigh something. Like if you're playing the wing and you weigh 50 kilos dripping wet, then you probably do 1,000 piston squats. But
I think if you're in lockdown, that's a great opportunity to kind of develop that muscular endurance as well, which sometimes we can be really, really good and really, really strong, but the ability to kind of repeatedly reach that level of maximum strength even in a workout or even in a match, like you might be really, really strong but good for like 2 scrums. And that's it. After that, you haven't trained the ability to keep reaching that high level of strength. So lunges again, okay, maybe you can do 20, maybe you can do 30, try and do 100, or do them at the end. Do the heavy exercise last when you're fatigued, where you don't have as much, kind of juice ready to go.
Yeah, you can. It's a good alternative to do. I think there's not a very good long-term solution, because if you're trying to build strength fatigued, you're just basically not building strength, because you're not going to activate enough connective tissue, right? All the fibers aren't going to fire because they're tired. So you're not going to get the response that you want, but you can maintain better. And certainly, if you're a beginner, you'll increase that way. There'd be no problem at all. But yeah, I think you can just be creative. Go and get stuff. Go and get some rocks. I mean, that's literally what I done. Like, got the car, went up to the to the forest and got some stones, put them in the car, and come back again. Like, and some people are like, but I live on the 6th floor and we don't have a lift. Great, that's going to be a good workout then.
That's going to be a
50 kilo rock and pick it up, hold it front, carry it, and walk upstairs.
Front loaded.
Like that'll destroy your hamstrings for sure.
Well, your core's going to work so hard trying to keep you upright, otherwise you're just going to go. You're gone, and you're going to face plant stairs.
When you front load and hold something and then move, you do a huge amount of hamstring work, which is people don't often realize or think about, and it's really hard to do hamstrings when you don't have a machine. So you're basically just going to only ever do some sort of RDL, like some sort of stiff-legged deadlift. It's the only way of doing hamstrings when you don't have any equipment. Unless you've got a partner, obviously you could do Nordic hammer.
That's it.
Which would be good, but they're difficult. Like not everybody is going to be able to start with even a single Nordic curl, or even just lowering yourself slowly. It's like my face.
Or it's just like you just get like a chest workout, do loads of press ups trying to get back up to position.
And then you just cheat, and it's like hard to work out. Am I actually doing anything, or am I just doing kind of half-assed push-ups, or what am I actually doing here?
What's going on? I think bands for that is really good, and something I saw from John Meadows. He put out a lot of content. It's definitely worth taking a look at some of the stuff he's got. But he put out a ton of content around how you can use bands. And he was with Louis Simmons? No, Dave Tate. He was with Dave Tate in his Elite FTS gym. And they were going through kind of some of the different workouts. And then he had Dave Tate, and the suggestion was to do, what's it called? We got the bar on your back and you're leaning forward.
Good mornings.
Good mornings, that's it. But with the band, and it's like you can, if you get a really, really strong band, you can do these, and you can do them very safely. And actually, he finds that people do them better with the band than even with a barbell. And that it creates a lot of burn a lot of tension in the hamstrings, and that's a great opportunity. But you're right, it's really difficult to do a lot of hamstring exercises without a gym.
Yeah.
And I
If
found
you want
just doing
to
RDLs.
isolate them, yeah. But
Yeah.
you know, anybody, you know, like for me, for example, I've torn both hamstrings, and I'm really, really glute dominant.
Yeah.
Like even doing RDLs, it's hard to target hamstrings because I know my glutes and lower back are going to do most of the work.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you know, so there's bands are a good shout. I would suggest do not attach them to a radiator. I may have made that mistake previously. Pull the radiator off the wall.
Wow. Either you're really, really I don't know if you're really, really strong or that was a poorly fixed radiator.
Because here in France, people don't like to build things out of brick. They do stupid plasterboard stuff.
Oh, okay.
Which I wasn't really thinking about it because in the UK, 90% of houses are built out of brick because we don't want.
Yeah, we're going that way. Yeah.
But yeah, here it was like plasterboard stuff, and so yeah, it wasn't really that difficult to pull it off the wall.
Oh wow. Okay, there's a good tip. Don't use plasterboard.
Don't do that. But you can, depending on what kind of sofa you've got, you can do it around the end of a sofa. If you've got the feet on the sofa, you hook that under and then put it over the arm, and then you lie down face flat on the sofa, and then you've got a lying leg curl.
Yeah, I see that. I can see how that might work. I'll give that a go because it's one thing I've really struggled with, and one thing I've been focusing on, maybe more sort of the last 2 months, is actually having 2 leg days, but like having a quad and calf day, and then having a hamstrings and like glute day or lower back day.
I'm all over my full body stuff at the moment. I'm highly recommending it to everybody. I just think it's going to be the way everything ends up, if you can. Yeah,
it depends. Yeah, I don't think necessarily for bodybuilding that's going to work, but absolutely for sports science, it seems to be heading the way. Frequency is becoming more and more important.
Yeah.
And I guess the question, like, if I put a gun to your head and said you need to double your squat in 2 months, to double your current maximum squat in 2 months, what are you going to do? You're probably going to squat every day. Yep. I said, if you fail this, I'm going to shoot you in the head. You're probably going to squat every day. You're not going to have 1 leg day, are you? You're probably going to be very, 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 very squat focused to try and hit that target. So not saying you have to take that attitude and no, you shouldn't neglect other exercises, but it just shows a lack of attention that at the moment gets given to legs.
Yeah. I really think your body is way more capable of adapting to a stimulus than you think.
And that's true.
The only thing you need to be conscious of is your mind, your mindset. If you're getting amped up as if this is literally life on the line, squat every time you squat, and you do that multiple times a week, I don't think your body will be burnt out from the actual physical exertion. Your mind will make you burn out. Like it'll just be in your head. If you just, because you see it with people who have high stress jobs who also do any kind of like weight training, when they're really stressed at work, they're weaker in the gym. Even
you're mentally fatigued. Yeah, absolutely.
Mentally fatigued, and then suddenly they're weak.
Yeah.
And so really, I think 90-95% of any kind of overtraining is just in your head. Like, I know is it Jeff Bose, however you say his name.
Bezos.
No,
not
Jeff Bose, Olympic weightlifting coach. And his philosophy is that there is no such thing as overtraining. You are just undertrained. You're just not prepared for the amount of work you've been doing. And you just need to either one, build up to it, or two, just do it long enough to allow your body to adapt. Obviously, within some sort of reason. Don't like bury yourself.
But I would say definitely build up to it.
He has his athletes do a 1 repetition maximum squat every single day.
Really? Okay.
And he has multiple people squatting, 300 kilos or more, 600, 700, 800 pounds. He has an 18-year-old squat 800 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Right. So you made him squat every day for like 2 years.
Just,
you're
going to get very good at it, and you're going to be able to tap into your strength very quickly. You don't need 10 sets to warm up like I do.
Yep. I mean, the guy still does it. I can't remember his name. That's going to annoy me. I follow him on Instagram. He's like in his 20s now, but he does a minimum of a 600-pound squat every single day of his life.
Wow. Okay.
He was in like a super heavyweight category when he done that 800-pound squat, and then he dropped like 30 kilos or something, like 100 pounds or whatever.
Yeah.
Of body weight to get into a much lower category. So 600 pounds for his weight category now there's still a lot of weight to be squatting. And does that as a minimum every day. But most days you see he posts it every single day. And most days he's doing something like 615 to 625 pounds, something like that. Some days it's a bit more, some days it's a bit less.
It's around 270, 280, nearly 300 kilos every day. Okay.
Yeah. I just in there every single day. It says takes him about 15 minutes to do it. Like that. From like walking in cold to having done 600 pounds, about 15 minutes. It's like, because you're so just prepped for it. If you think about people working on construction sites, they don't warm up. They just pick up some bricks and go and lay some bricks. Like they don't warm up.
So say that again, you cut out.
I said it's like people work on construction sites. They don't warm up before they get there. They just turn up and then pick up 40 kilos of bricks and lay some bricks. Right.
Yeah.
So you can prepare yourself for a lot of things. Obviously, I wouldn't say go in cold and do a 1 repetition max is going to be healthy. I would still encourage people to warm up. But I think you can do a lot more than you think you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the time we used to train, and then you picked that T-Nation program, which was you had to squat, bench, deadlift every day, and then you did either pull-ups or something core engaged. I think that was the routine, and it was like the first week was just hell because you're like, my legs are dead from the heavy squatting I've just done, and basically had a full body, relatively heavy. It wasn't light work, wasn't light rep ranges, but after a week or two, you were just getting under that bar, and
it was easy.
Like you did 100 kilos and you're like, I'm still warming up, I think. Like it wasn't a bother. You didn't need to go through that standard, like put one plate on, do a high rep set, or do some pause squats. Like the groove was just there. You could just get in and go.
Yeah, it really was. I remember I'd done that program for about 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that. And by about week 5 or 6, I think we'd come in and start with squats. My maximum squat at the time was like 150, or it was like 140 before I started that program, and finished it with 150 kilos.
Yeah.
And
your body weight was at that time
probably like 65 kilos to 68.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yep.
Actually, I weighed myself today. I'm 70 kilos now, 70.8. Gone all the way up to 83, and now gone all the way back down again.
Done really well. Lost a lot. Congrats.
So that's mainly writing my back off so many times. I'm just like, I've got to lose some body fat, otherwise I'm just not able to train frequently enough to justify this amount of food. But we walked, week 5 or week 6 or whatever it is, a few days, or literally like a few days before I hit the 150, and I think I went. You've done maybe a general warm up, or I don't think I did. I think I just put 60 kilos on the bar, done that like two reps, and then went to 100 kilos.
Yeah.
And then done like a set of 5, and then was like 120, 30, 40, 50. Job done.
Yeah.
And I remember you, because you were spotting and you were just there like, why have you just gone from 60 to 100 kilos? I'm like, I don't know, I feel good.
I remember it because at that time, it's not like our numbers are 300 kilos. It's not like you're not talking like, oh, I'm going to do a rep. I'm going to do a set on like 6, 7, 8 reps on 200 kilos. Where if you went one plate at a time, I mean, you might do that, but it'll take you a while to get there.
Yeah.
But judging by that, you need 4 or 5 sets to warm up. So you'd kind of put 20 on, then maybe 10s, take the 10s off, put 20 on, and kind of work up 60, 80, 100, 120, 140, that way up. Whereas you just went, forget it, just add another 20 on. It's fine. I decide.
Yeah. Just felt really, really good about it. And I started doing that at the beginning of this year when the gyms were open here. At the end of last year and through the beginning of this year, probably about 4 months, where I went, you know what, I'm just going to do a full body thing every single day to see what happens. So I actually made it a bit ridiculous because I was in 2 minds between whether I want to do a powerlifting competition or a strongman competition. And obviously in strongman, you have to do reps. So I was like, that's difficult. And obviously you can also build strength by doing sets of 3 and sets of 5, of course. 5, 3, 1, that type of thing. So I was like, you know what, screw it. I've got enough problems. I can't really make myself that much worse. What I'll do is, because this is clever, I'll do, and do you know Matt Wenning, so powerlifter?
No.
He's really, really keen on like super high rep warm-up sets just to put a huge amount of volume in, pump blood, good for tendons,
Okay.
all sorts of different things, which I really agree with. Like, I think that's a really good one to warm up. Like, it kills two birds with one stone. You get a really good warm-up and you build tendon strength and get good blood flow and all sorts of things.
Okay.
So I was doing like a set of 50 reps, a set of 30 reps, a set in the sort of 12 to 15 range, set in the like 8 to 12 range, a set in the 3 to 5 range, and then between 1 and 3 sets between 1 and 3 reps. And I was doing that for bench, squat, bench, deadlift, and pull-ups. And then I'd done that for about a month.
Pull-ups? 50 pull-ups?
Or like a lat pull down. I use bands or whatever.
Oh, okay, fine.
Like,
Okay.
You know, just the way, but that kind of pull motion.
Sure. Yeah.
Not a bent over row because I wanted to, because I was already going to do deadlifts. Like
That'd be horrendous.
I'd done the deadlifts as RDLs to not have a full deadlift in there, and because you're squatting as well, so I wanted it more posterior chain. And just kind of, I didn't want to go full whole hog. I suppose I was somewhat nervous, at least, even though this is a ridiculous thing to do. And I was like, well, I'll do that. It took like, I don't know, between 2 and 3 hours to do. So that's also ridiculous. But I'm like, well, I'm a human guinea pig, it's fine. So I've done that. First like 2 weeks, I think I wanted to dine almost every single day. And then by about week 3 or 4, I just was like pretty good with it. And then by month, end of month 2, beginning of month 3, I felt really good all of the time, to the point where on most training days, I would also put in a bunch of ab work and arms and often hamstrings and feel good about it. And then the next day come in and like all the lists were just, going up. Something, they were like...
Nothing goes up, like a stock chart. Yeah,
exactly. Like, come in one day and it's like, oh crap, I can only squat 80 kilos. This is not good. But then I'll call it. I'll just be like, oh, not so good today. That's fine.
Yeah.
And then go home. And it didn't matter. When you you're building up to a 1 rep max once a week, it's like really pinnacle, and you don't hit it, you feel crap. But when you're coming in every single day, you kind of don't care. You're like, oh yeah, didn't work out today. And I was always maintaining being calm. Like I didn't play music because you get amped up. It's always like really chilled. And if I felt nervous about the lift, like I might miss it, then I put less weight on the bar.
Okay.
So it was always going to be a lift that I can make. Like, so I didn't miss a single lift.
So it's about getting the work done rather than pushing your body to, I suppose.
Yeah, and just not getting myself in a mental
out that frontier.
Where I'm like on the nerve edge all the time, getting amped up, sniffing salts, going ballistic, having somebody slap you around the head, and no, just calm, come in every single day and get it done. And I do work really well, and then all the gyms closed. So that was
that's fun. So what was the frequency of that? 3 times a week, every day? What was it?
Every day I could make it to the gym, which was normally about 4, I would say, on average, but I'd get 5 if I can, because Monday to Friday was
so you're in the gym for 2-3 hours 3-4 times a week.
Yeah, but I mean, I know that's not practical for a lot of people listening to this, but for me at that point it was like, so so I was just like, well, I might as well try this out. But you could always do that in a scale version, kind of. You don't have to do 90 million sets like I was doing on every single one. And you could pick fewer exercises. Like you could pick one lower body, like do squat or deadlift, and not both.
Sure.
And then
that makes sense.
Instead of like, because I was doing a bench press and then basically resting because I wanted the strength work and resting, and then doing the pull-ups as an entirely separate thing. But you could be way more time efficient by just supersetting it, and it really wouldn't affect you that much, especially for training something like rugby instead of a powerlifting meet. Like, or if you're doing a powerlifting meet, you just don't have the time, I would just superset it, and I think you could get, even if you'd done all of that work, I think I could have done it in 90 minutes if I really wanted to. I just didn't.
Yeah, okay.
I was quite happy to sit there for 5 minutes between sets because I could work from my phone. So responding to emails while I'm sat waiting between sets was no problem for me.
Oh, I see. Okay, so fine. Yeah. You made it work for you. That's it.
So that allowed me that extra time. Like if I've got an hour's worth of emails to do, well, I can do that in the gym because I'm going to have an hour's worth of rest in that 3 hours.
Yeah.
not like
hours worth of
war.
rest.
I'm a powerlifter. I've got sandwiches with me now.
There you are, making a mocktail. Oh,
Yeah.
you had it. Yeah, there's an umbrella.
Yeah. Turn up a little stall.
That's it. Yeah, open up Netflix.
Yeah. What's that? That's my blow up bed. I'll have a little lie down before
Nice little nap in between
exercises.
sets.
Yeah. Maximise from recovery, yeah?
But power nap between
Yeah.
sets.
That's why it's called powerlifting.
Everything's power.
Yeah. That was a nice little experiment. I would like to have continued it and see how,
Yeah.
if I could have done that for 12 months, just to see what happened. Like I might, like after, because when would we get to about month 4 before the gym's shut? But by month 6, I could have just killed myself. Like I could have just been buried and it just not worked.
Yeah.
So it's only, it's very, one person sample size and, lots of variables, but it was interesting. So
yeah.
it's something I want to do again. If I had a group of athletes, I'd make them all do it as well, just in my own selfish interest of science.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I did CrossFit for that brief period, and I just remember the first couple of weeks were a bit difficult because I was still trying to hit the gym, because obviously, I probably shouldn't have done that, but I was still very much like, I want to do CrossFit. I want to get all the benefits that come from CrossFit in terms of like improved, cardio. I will get someone who is far stronger than me. I didn't have a gym partner, so actually being as part of a class, and there was guys and girls that were very, very strong, and there were some guys that were doing some really good lifts. So actually having someone like that spot, or at least just keep an eye on my form and my ability across the different lifts, it was great. And also had a friend that was in the box at the time as well, so it was really, really good. But like your body's ability, like you say, if you're going to train everything, you're kind of not murdering it to the extent that you are in the gym. But because I was still doing that, so I was doing a full CrossFit workout the following day, I was like, today I'm going to absolutely annihilate, say chest, for example. But then on Wednesday, CrossFit session might be, today we're doing this workout. And then in the WOD, it was like, we're going to do 20 press ups. I'm like, shit, this is not going to go great. And so for the first month, it was very difficult to try and combine the two, but eventually the body just recovered.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing also. If you're going to do full body thing, like if you think, even if I'd done 10 sets, that means I'd done 10 sets of squats, great. But if I was to do a traditional leg workout, I'd have done more like 20 to 30 sets of leg stuff. So realistically, I only done 1/3 of the amount of work that you would have done. So to come back the next day and do the next third, and come back the next day and do the next third, and have I recovered from the first third 3 days later? Well, probably. Yeah. Actually, you do get accumulative fatigue, of course, but again, I think you can just manage that with your own mindset. Just don't feel tired. Just convince yourself you're not tired. And if you really are that burnt out, you'll feel it on the bar, and you can just always take a bit of weight off, or just call it a day a bit earlier. And that's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like on some of the days where I felt rubbish, I never missed doing a 1 rep, because my focus was always ultimate strength. So I would take out probably the set of 8 to 12, because that's ridiculous when you're trying to do squats. Like, but
for sure.
Gassed afterwards. What is this, cardio? I do cardio.
Exactly.
So I probably take that one out. Or like 12 to 15, 8 to 12. I just cut them down and just make them warm up sets. The set of 5 would probably be, something I could have done for 8 reps, and then I just basically ramping up to a 1 rep, and then I would do, and then see how that went. I'd get my minimum. I had a minimum I wanted to achieve every day in each exercise, which was relatively comfortable. I should never miss it type of thing. Get there and then judge. Okay, am I done today and that's it? It's over, or am I going to add a little bit? Am I going to progress a little bit more? Am I going to get to whatever I've done yesterday, perhaps, or just kind of make a judgment call from there? So days that I felt rubbish, I'd still do what was probably within 7% of an actual 1 rep max. So even though you feel rubbish, you're actually really not far away from the ultimate 1 rep max.
Yeah.
Because you just,
that's a good point.
So you can moderate it other ways. If you've got different objectives, you might want to do that the opposite way. Like you might want to keep doing the higher rep stuff, and as you come down, go, you know what, I feel rubbish, and just stop. Because you've done a set of 15, you've done a set of 10, and you've done a set of 5, and you're like, you know what, I'm just not going to do a set of 3 and then 2 singles. Just not do it.
Exactly. not doing that. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, I guess for anyone listening, obviously there's you're playing with lots of different training structures, seeing what works, and it's interesting that it all works as long as you've stuck to it long enough. And it's like, yeah, the first week's going to suck big time. That's going to be that's the hardest week probably of any of these high frequency programs for sure. But then after sort of week 3, week 4, or maybe even week 2, like you'll start to notice that it's not as bad and your body is recovering. And then by week 4, you're probably going to be in a good to go position and then ready to kind of absolutely maximize its strength. But you got to get over that initial first week hurdle from it. So that's kind of, I guess, the take home. But they've all worked, which means like there is no, this is the only program that's going to work for you. And we've given some ideas and thoughts on what we think are the best exercises.
Yeah.
They might not work for you. Maybe you're just someone who is so terrible at being balanced. I don't know. Maybe you've got pronation and supination, therefore actually trying to hold your balance is not great, and therefore doing an elevated front squat isn't going to work for you. It puts a lot of pain through your arches. Then do the squats or do leg press. So find what works for you, but at least there's some ideas out there about what to do, and it can all work really, which is great.
It absolutely can. Like if you think, I can probably find somebody who is a world-class athlete on almost any training program.
Well, yeah, that's like, you've got like the Game Changers, that Netflix documentary that came out that was saying, you've got these, albeit very rare, but these are elite athletes that are doing the vegan diet and they're great. And then you've got some people, I haven't seen the documentary, but I'm sure you've got some that are doing carnivore, which is a complete opposite, and they're just as elite, in their respective fields.
Well. Yeah. It's, I don't think there's no like, people love to say it's the easiest thing to sell. Like this is the only solution for you. Like,
sure. Yeah.
Everything else is wrong. Like from a sales perspective, that's how you sell something. But in the grand scheme of the world, that's not how things work.
Anything works. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're so individual that what works for you can be any of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And no one thing is absolutely right. I mean, yeah, and kind of, the thing I did want to mention, and we kind of cut out on the signal briefly, was your point about like, construction work. You get some of these IFBB pro bodybuilders that their day job is construction. And it's like, okay, well, someone that's working a construction job might go, you know what, I'm too sore from my day's job to go to the gym to do a basic workout. And you've got Samson Dowda, who's a British bodybuilder. He's an open bodybuilder, and he's currently, tomorrow, he'll be competing at the Spanish IFBB Pro in Alicante, and he works construction during the day.
Yep.
He's not paid to just be in the gym.
Yeah, it makes me laugh because different people's lifestyles and the way they work or the way they don't. Like there's a bunch of strongmen. In fact, most strongmen stories are actually relatively similar, especially older strongmen, like in the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
Few of the first people to ever like deadlift over 800 pounds, that kind of region, 400 kilos and things. And one guy was a farmer, and so and he used to chuck pick up and throw hay bales onto his truck every day. That was kind of his thing, and he kind of done it as his workout as well. Those things weighed like 150 kilos or something stupid. Like, and he's like, picking them up like a Atlas stone lift. And it's like, how many barrels do you do a day? I don't know, like 200 across 8 hours. It's like, who's going to write that down as a training program? Everybody's looking at it. Exactly. Like 150 kilo Atlas stone 400 times across 8 hours. Why is that my training program?
Exactly.
And he's like, I never trained deadlift, and he could easily just deadlift 600-700 pounds without thinking about it, and then got to 800. And it's like there's many different people doing so many different things. And if you look at Westside Barbell, that one always makes me laugh because people are like, oh no, wait, like they do 2 upper body sessions and 2 lower body sessions. It's like, well, read Westside Barbell, because in there it says they do 14 other training sessions.
Yeah.
Specialist movements, which is namely reverse hyperextensions, triceps, lats, and sled work.
Yeah.
They're doing a full body thing every single day of their lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, the only thing they're actually only doing 4 times a week is a maximum effort lift and a dynamic effort lift. Because every other day they're doing some sort of basically bodybuilding routine every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. Building up all their weaknesses. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think if you dial into almost any elite athlete, you see that they're doing a ridiculous amount of work in comparison to the average person who's like, I'm too sore to train today. No, you're not. You are undertrained, not overtrained.
You're undertrained. It's in your mind. But it is possible that I would say absolutely. If you're completely new to the game or you've had a very, very long break, I wouldn't dive straight in to any of these high frequency programs. And the only reason I say that is, and this is completely my experience, is sometimes I'll go into the gym completely if I haven't done anything for say 6 months, or the first time I ever stepped into the gym. That first session, that first like proper leg session, I was so sore I could not actually put my calves were so tight and so kind of filled with like, I don't know, lactic acid or that. They were so sore I couldn't actually put my heel to the floor. And I got times where like you train arms, and I at that time I was working at Tesco, just part-time job in the warehouse, to pick up these like boxes. You're talking about 150 kilo hay bales here. This was probably 15, 20 kilo basket that is just stack up. But because with trained arms, I couldn't actually extend my arm fully. I'm picking them up, kind of going like this. Just like shimmying it up and like sliding it up my shoulder, trying to get them up on these shelves. So don't train to the point, or don't train in a manner that means you have to wait 10 days to get back in the gym because you're just that sore. That's why I was, like we said earlier, if you're going to build up to it, like do that.
I think in some way, I think if you're over the age of, say, let's go with 30 because that's an arbitrary number, I would agree with you. Be a little bit more sensible. You've probably got enough life experience to realize what sensible means. And build up to it a bit. Even if you're going to start training every day, like don't do 10 sets of, do like 2 or 3 sets and then move on to the next exercise and then build up over time. You also don't need to start at 100. Like if you've never really trained before, you can start at 1. It's okay because the progress is all coming from overload. So the quicker you get to 100, the more clever you have to be about adapting your training. So you might as well make use of that progress. If you're under the age of 30 and you've never really trained before, in some ways I want to encourage you to be ridiculous, because you'll kind of find out what those limits are a little bit, feel what it's like. And there's sometimes you just do more than you realized you could, and because you're young enough, you will, it might take you 10 days to recover, but you've also got long enough ahead of you that it doesn't really matter that you've lost 10 days. And I don't know, in some ways, do you know what I mean? Like, I know it's a bit of a ridiculous thing to say, but because some people just don't work hard and they think they have and they're not.
So I wouldn't say that was the hardest leg session I ever had where I couldn't put my heel to the floor, but it was, the hardest leg session I ever had was I trained with someone who I knew trained way harder than me. For them, that it meant working out was so much more. It was their job, it was their lifeline, and therefore for them coming in and killing it, and I mean truly killing it, was like the amount of workload we did was insane, and that kind of opened my eyes to, okay, I think I'm pushing it, like I'm adding a drop set, or I'm in my head like, okay, I've squatted now, that's kind of it. Whereas the leg day with him wasn't just squats and then you kind of did leg press and then a couple of machines and you're done. It started with leg extensions, then it went to squats, then it went to leg press, then it went to hack squats, and then we finished with hamstrings and calves. And he was like, this is what he does, and he's a big guy and he's a rugby player as well. Played for Brighton, which is a pretty decent level in their first team. Like, absolute unit winger, but unit, and he won the British Junior, I think, Open, men's Open bodybuilding. So you can know this guy is a big guy, big dude. And so when he's telling you, no, we're doing this now, like he was much younger than me. He's certainly got 4 or 5 years my junior, but he's telling you it's doing. I'm like, yes, sir. Yeah, we're going to do this. We'll do this. We're going to go squat now. Okay. And then we're going to go do hack squat now. Okay. Are we done with the heavy squatting now? We're going to do machines in my head. No, we're going to go do leg press. Okay. So yeah, I get what you're trying to say. I still don't think doing something that means you're out the gym for 10 days.
No, you don't.
Maybe if you're a year, 2 years down the line and you happen to try what is a novel stimulus and it puts you out for 10 days, fine, so be it. But for the first, because what can also happen is, if it does put me out the gym for 10 days and I'm sore for 10 days and I can put my heel to the floor for 10 days and, I'm struggling to drive my car and I'm struggling to walk around at work, I'm probably not going to want to train legs again.
Yeah. I mean, that is the other side of things. I don't know. I think having these experiences in some ways is worthwhile.
Sure.
Like if you've only ever done everything by the book and done it properly, you're probably not very strong.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know anybody who's achieved a serious level of strength in any sport who hasn't got some story of them doing something totally bonkers at least once.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
So
those that
maybe not the first thing, but at some point you might want to do an 8-hour arm session and just see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Or just have an arm session, or like I had a quad only session, a quad and calf session where I just focused entirely on my quads. And that was I felt for the next 2 days, I was looking at myself in the mirror, like in the shower, just like looking at going, they look bigger.
I think it worked.
Wait, training them works? This is interesting. That volume thing, that someone's onto that.
I think if you can train with a decent amount of intensity 3 to 5 times a week for 10 years, you'd have built some strength.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that's just the consistency of 10 years, I think. That's kind of playing at it.
Like, because people going crazy at the moment. I can't get to the gym, I can't do a squat. Great, do split squats, fill up a suitcase, run up the stairs. Like, do something.
Yeah.
Just start doing something.
Absolutely.
Like, I think that's a big. You see people are like, just finding any excuse in the book to not do. Oh, I would do, but I mean, we're all guilty of that. I certainly am.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I should be way more advanced than I am, but it's that inconsistency. It's letting, like you said, like having a tough day at work where you're mentally drained and then you're driving home and you're like, kind of feeling tired now. I don't think I should go to the gym because I'll probably injure myself. And just using that as an excuse that I don't want to injure myself, so I'm not going to go to the gym. And then that becomes 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Like, you don't just get that random one busy day at work. You probably have a busy project at work, which means for a period of time. And that's happened before. But then again, obviously you do have like rugby injuries when you're playing. That puts you out for a while from the gym. So that's going to happen. In our sport, that's going to happen. So being able to adapt and having the discipline to go to the gym and adapt to either an injury, adapt to the COVID-19, a lockdown, or adapt to the fact that maybe the machine you want to do isn't available, so you got to do something else.
Yeah, I think adapting on that, you've got to be
very good.
Mindful of how long it's going to take you to recover versus how much longer you're going to make your recovery by doing stuff. And like, you just want to balance off the two, because some people have, like I ripped all the skin off my finger years ago. Like, all the skin came off, so it's like wrapped in bandages. But I didn't miss a day of the gym because I could use straps, so I didn't have to use my grip, and it was fine. And working out was not going to change the recovery process at all. Like, my skin was just going to go back at the rate it was going to go back. Like, I wasn't going to make it worse because I'm not going to grip anything. Like, so I'm just going to work around it. But when I tore my hamstring, I obviously didn't do any leg work, because every time you move the muscle of the hamstring, that's like, it re-tears itself. It's trying to build back in, and it re-tears itself. And so you are going to make it worse. So taking 3 months off of doing any direct hamstring work was a good idea. So I think that's the only balance between, like, working around injuries is a good idea, but how is it going to prolong your recovery?
Well, no, it's working around injuries, isn't it? But when I say working around injuries, doesn't mean making it worse. Like, working around injuries might be not training that muscle, but still working out and going, I've got a dodgy ankle, so I'm just not going to go to the gym. What's that? You have a dodgy ankle, okay, but you can still do leg extensions, you can still do hand curls, so you can train legs in some form, some manner, and you can still train your upper body.
Yep.
There's no reason why you shouldn't and couldn't do that.
Yeah, I've seen people where they're like, you have a pec injury or shoulder injury, so they're like, I'm only going to do sets of 10, it'll be fine on bench. And I'm like, or
you don't.
And then it's not tear your pec off. How about that?
Yeah, fair enough. That is ridiculous.
Like, so, because some people do it like that when they're like, a work around an injury, they just go lighter on it, which in some places that's is worthwhile, because you want the blood in there, you want the blood flow. It's just that balance. But yeah, it's funny. Like, what have you done? I think he had shoulder surgery, actually. I can't remember, it was years ago now, but he had something ridiculous where it was like, don't bench. I'll just tech fly thing, but I'll just do it like, yeah, no.
No. Yeah, that's it. You get him off the bench. He's like,
Yeah.
fine. He shunders off, starts doing back.
Yeah, and he's like, fine, don't worry about
Fine
it.
press ups.
I'll just skip the gym, straight to my jiu-jitsu training for the arm bars. No.
No.
that kind of mentality.
Is it? Yeah. Oh wow.
Working on his tennis serve for Sunday.
Yeah.
You play tennis, stop it.
Well, that's a nice note to leave it on. I just kind of obviously be smart around injuries, but lockdown may happen, more restrictions may come, and this might be a bit of a flowing game until the vaccine comes out, which maybe some point next year, maybe later next year. So things might get better and then get worse again. So just being able to adapt. There's a couple of useful, I guess, exercises there, maybe some to maybe prioritize. I like the idea of there isn't one exercise, but there is definitely one maybe more optimal for lower body and definitely one more optimal for the upper body. So hopefully there's some really good tips for you guys. That's going to be the purpose of this podcast. Tom's kindly offered his time to stick around and share his experience. Formerly played rugby at a good level, his degree, unless you want to briefly touch on what your degree was.
It's just sports science. So
yeah.
Coaching science, so how to learn skills.
There you go. So go on.
And the psychology of like high level performance.
Cool. And we're going to hopefully tap into more of that. And strength training is a part of rugby, but there is skills. And then there aren't going to be too many new drills that we're going to maybe share. It's probably going to be similar drills, but how do we learn these new skills? How do we ingrain them? Why do some people do the drill and get really, really good? And why do some people do the same drill and don't really progress? And hopefully we'll tap into some of Tom's knowledge there. And he himself has played at a pretty decent level. And my background is that I don't come from a rugby background at all. I played cricket. I was not built like a rugby player at all in the slightest. I got in the gym with this guy's help to get better at cricket, or get bigger and stronger for cricket. I got bigger and stronger. It didn't really help my cricket very much. Funny that, considering it's probably a pure skill sport. I could throw the ball harder.
But we did turn you to the dark side, so that's good.
You did, yeah. I did it at 23. I put down the bat and ball and picked up the egg-shaped one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've enjoyed it since. Still playing.
That was my ultimate ambition. So. Job done from my end. You've cut out. You turned into a robot.
When we because I'm have I? Can you hear me now?
Yes, back in.
Yeah. Oh, it keeps coming up, internet connections. So I'm going to have to sort this out for future podcasts. But my experience is I've had to learn everything. I haven't just, whereas cricket, I probably couldn't explain how to do some things because I was just like, this is how you play an off drop. Like you just lift your elbow and get into this groove. Whereas for me, having to learn it at an adult age meant I had to focus on that movement and the skill and the strength element. But because I came from from a nothing base, and that development that I had, I kind of understood it better, I think. And therefore I'll share that. And
yeah, you remember learning it.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah.
You get a lot of that with language teachers. Like some of the best language teachers are people teaching a language that's their own second language because they remember how they learnt it.
There you go.
That ends up, because I'm currently learning French, and anybody who's taught, I've had about 4 or 5 different teachers, and the ones who spoke it as a second language were by far better.
Yeah.
Because they could explain how to you should remember it like this.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, that's clever. Because that's how they learned it rather than just grew up knowing it. Yeah,
exactly. I'm like, why are you doing that instead of that? Because that's the way it's done.
Yeah.
Because it sounds right. So it doesn't sound right to me. It'd be the same with that. Like, why do you put your hand on the ball there? Why didn't you go that way instead of that way? Or I don't know. There's just because it's ingrained. If you do
for you, it's instinctively. Yeah, you're doing stuff instinctively, whereas I'm having to think about everything on a pitch. Yeah, and I've had to do that with my training. So hopefully I can share that. And there aren't going to be many people who make that transition from cricket to rugby. but hopefully the advices and tips I'll share will be applicable to anyone that's still developing in the game. And that's the purpose of it. We'll hopefully maybe get Julia on for some of the chats. She's played rugby at a better standard than both of us.
Maybe.
She definitely has. Don't say anything you regret. She will pick you up and pile drive you. She has done it before.
Yeah.
So we'll get her on board. Hopefully we'll get Callum. So Wales under 20 was at Six Nations. He's a tight head. No, he keeps changing positions. But I think he plays hooker. Front row, because he does move around, and we'll get him on board. He does represent Wales.
He likes pies. Let's just go.
He likes it. He does. But we'll get him on board, and we'll get some extra. Well, hopefully that'll be a platform to get some of the top coaches on board with the trainers and get their advice as well as our kind of slightly more amateurish opinion on things.
Yeah, I think for myself, for the rugby side of things, like I played as a 9 for most of my beginning of my career, and I was 60 odd kilos when I was soaking wet, and then went through to the other spectrum of tearing my hamstrings off and not having any speed anymore, and putting on weight, both muscle and just fat, and getting up to 83 kilos and going into the front row.
Yeah, wow.
Completely changing, how I train, how, sort of focusing on speed and focusing on strength, what's that transition and things. So yeah, some insights there hopefully as well for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of did the classical, new guy, chuck him on the wing. But I came from a cricket and a long distance running background. Not that I ran long distance, but at school I would do the mile. I was definitely not a sprinter. That was a fact. But eventually, chucked on the wing. I went into front row. I was hooker as well, and then went back onto the wing, and then moved into the centres. So kind of had a few different positions. Centre is definitely my preferred position, but my physique has had to adapt slightly, and as I've kind of progressed, I've found a role that I probably sit best in.
Yeah.
Again,
first ever game of rugby I played 13. It was,
okay.
I think about the only thing I could do was tackle people and run quick, but
yeah.
I don't know, I just didn't want to be. I think they asked me if I wanted to be in the wing, and I was like, no. We'll go with 13 then, shall we?
I don't want to go there. Yeah, it does get a bit lonely and boring out there. It depends how greedy your forwards are.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the purpose. Now, I appreciate your time, buddy. We've been on for a little while. Gonna stop the recording, but yeah, please like, share, follow, and we'll try and put these out as consistently as we can. So yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy, and see you at the next podcast. See you later.
See you later.